Okay, so for today's conference, we will have a keynote speech sessions by the Associate Professor Dr. Mumtaz Ali Memon, and he already being with us today. So thank you so much, Prof. Mumtaz, for being with us and then to share the knowledge. And he will be delivering the material about the methodological misconception and guideline. And we think this is a really great and really important material for all of us as the scholars, so we should pay attention a lot to what he will be delivering today. But before he will delivering the keynote speech, I would like to read his biography for a while. Next slide, please. Yeah. So our keynote speaker today is the Associate Professor Dr. Mumtaz Ali Memon. He is the Associate Professor of the Human Resource Management in the NUST Business School, Islamabad, Pakistan. And then he is also the adjunct faculty at the UCSI University Malaysia. And he is also the managing editor of the Journal of Applied Structural Equation Modeling and the guest editor of the International Journal of Manpower, Electronic Journal of Applied Statistical Analysis, and Journal of the Marketing Analytics. And Dr. Mumtaz has published in several international revered journals, including International Journal of Manpower, Management Decisions, Internet Research, Journal of Management and Organizations, Journal of Cleaner Productions, British Food Journals, Journal of Management Development, European Journal of Training and Development, and Journal of Information and Knowledge Management, among others. And he has also presented at several conferences, both locally and abroad, and won several Best Paper Awards. And he is also a winner of 2018 Emerald Literary Award for Outstanding Paper. So Dr. Mumtaz editorial on methodological misconceptions, mediation analysis, issues and recommendations, and moderation analysis, issue and guidelines, and sample size for survey research were downloaded more than 38,000 times. So it's really what a great achievement for the Professor Mumtaz, and he will be sharing it us today. So we cannot wait for that. And in December 2019, he and his colleague translated Smart PLS 3.0 into the Urdu language. Wow, this is a really great contribution also, which is now officially part of the Smart PLS software. The version number is 3.2.9, and Dr. Mumtaz research areas include the Green HRM, performance management, employee engagement, and advanced quantitative research method. And Dr. Mumtaz can be contacted at the email. So all of us also can connect with Dr. Mumtaz, or we usually call him a Professor Mumtaz. So you can connect directly also to him through his email. Okay, without delaying anymore, we would like to welcome Associate Professor Dr. Mumtaz Ali Memon to the forums. Please, Professor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Santi, for your kind words. And could you please allow me to share my slides, please?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, admin, would you please?
Okay, now I can.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And it is an absolute pleasure, an honor to be part of the wonderful event. And I'm very grateful of the Research Synergy Foundation for having me today. A special thanks to NAS Business School, my university, for supporting, and Journal of Applied Structural Equation Modeling, and my SEM colleagues. And you know, guys, that my SEM is the backbone behind our learning and sharing. What I'm going to discuss today is about methodological misconceptions. There are so many methodological misconceptions, but I have selected a few which are very important and which are procedural, which can easily be discussed and guidelines can be provided. So what are these misconceptions are all about? It's about probability and non-probability sampling, pre-testing and pilot study, exploratory and confirmatory factor analysis, and last but not the least is about several issues in mediation analysis. So I'm sure that researchers who are currently on quantitative research, using quantitative research approach, the discussion will be very helpful for them. And at the end, we have a Q&A session. So I'm very sure that if there is any question, we are going to discuss and I'll try to respond if I know. If I don't know, then I will definitely ask you to give me a time so I can share proper information with you. The discussion is based on our three editorials, which we have published in Journal of Applied Structural Equation Modeling, Mediation Analysis in 2018, Methodological Misconception in 2017, and then recently we have published editorial on sample size in survey research. So these are the resources I have used for this discussion. And you can download this from just scanning this QR code. If you want, it will directly link you to our ResearchGate, and you can easily download everything available there. But later you can have the slides, so the link will be there. You can easily access them at any time. Credit goes to my same team. Especially I'm grateful of Professor Ramaya, Associate Professor Dr. Heram Ting, Dr. Jay Kichia, Dr. Francis, and Dr. Jason. But without them, these editorial may not be possible for me. So it is their wonderful support, because we believe in we, and we less discuss about me. So I believe that it's a teamwork, and without teamwork, what I see at Research Synergy Foundation, it's my same, it's all about teamwork. So everything for me, it's all about team. The first issue I'm going to discuss is about probability and non-probability sampling. Some people, they believe that they are using smart PLS, they're using M+, they are using SPSS, they are using second generation analytical software, so it's good enough. But trust me that it's not enough. If you don't design your samples very well, if you don't plan for your sampling techniques, it is going to be a big disaster at the end. So we always suggest, we always preach that what matters is basically your sampling, how you select your respondents. We also believe, we are not preaching that non-probability sampling is the best. We are preaching that the probability sampling, what we call as a random sampling, and everyone wants to do a random sampling, so is the best. But the question is whether it's possible to randomize, to randomly select your participants. Sometime, not the sometime, but majority of the times is almost impossible. The reason, one of the reason is the sampling framework. You don't have sampling frame. Sampling frame, what I mean is the list of all the respondents in your population. For example, if you are conducting a research on international research students in Malaysia, do you have the list of all the international students in Malaysia? Of course you don't have, and it's very difficult to extract from the university. So it means you are unable to imply probability sampling. And even if you have a sampling frame, let's imagine in ideal conditions, if you have a sampling frame, it is not possible to have the desired response rate and representativeness, because when you randomize, the chances are higher that the data may be skewed towards the male only. Data may be, the respondents may be skewed towards the one state and maybe through the one country. So it's very difficult. And that's the reason we see that the students usually use KG and Morgan's table, and even they don't have the probability sampling techniques. So what we suggest based on the literature, even though we have a recent article, it's a randomness problematic in social science research. It's published in Quality and Quantity by Krause, Martin Krause. is also discussing the same. He highlighted the 7 issues that basically uh, are the hindrances in using probability sampling. So what we preach is careful selection. If you select your samples carefully, even you are using non-probability sampling, it's maybe purposive sampling, it's maybe quota sampling, it's maybe a convenience sampling, but your selection is should be careful. If you're not selecting your samples carefully, then it's a problem. So if a researcher, for example, we have so many students and they ask, doctor, I'm not using probability sampling, so what should I do and how I should justify? The justification, the recommendation is very simple. Try to justify that why you cannot use. So one of the justification is you don't have the sampling frame and it is beyond your control, because organizations, universities, they won't provide you the list of their respondent, for example, students, and organization about employees. So you don't have, so how you can do? This is one justification. Secondly, the procedure. If let's suppose you have the list, but you cannot travel all around Malaysia, all around Pakistan, all around Indonesia. That is also the cost and time limitations. That's another justification, but it must be written explicitly and justified. For example, if you mention there's a list not available, but your examiner knows the list is already available and sampling frame is there, then you are in a mess, then you are in a disaster. So please make sure that you don't have the sampling frame. Make sure you cannot use. Then the second option you have is a non-probability sampling. And then you have to justify that the respondent you have selected using non-probability sampling are the true respondents which meets the research objectives of your thesis or your paper. And then you have a several citation. For more citations, you can download the editorial we have published on methodological misconception. And especially I would suggest you to read Rowley 2014, Cooper and Schindler, it's a book actually. And then Holland's paper 2017, which was published in Journal of Academy of Marketing. It's wonderful for the understanding and for supporting your arguments when you are using non-probability sampling. Another issue is the pre-testing and pilot study. We usually underestimate pre-testing. We always go for pilot testing. This is a misconception because examiner always asks you about pilot testing. Have you done pilot study? And we always say, yes, we did pilot study. But the magic, the capability of pre-testing is something different than pilot study. So what we believe is the instrument matters. If your instrument is not reliable, if your instrument is not validated properly, and if your instrument is not understood by your participants, then your data is not a quality data. Then it won't be giving you the information which it's supposed to give you. So for the instrument, for a reliable instrument, the pre-testing is a must. In that paper, the Holland 2017, published in Journal of Academy of Marketing, it suggested even you do the content validity, even you do the fast validity, you ask experts to validate your questionnaire, but do you believe that experts knows your context of a study? When you will be collecting data in your field, the respondents will be answering your questions. They really understand the respondents' ability to understand your questions. That can only be done through pre-testing. So just don't only focus on experts' opinion. Sometimes we say, okay, I had 2-3 experts. They said your instrument is working very well and you have no issue. Actually, it's not enough. You have to go for pre-testing. So what's the difference in how we do pre-testing? It's very simple. Ask 4-5 respondents from your actual population. Sometimes we do study on employees, but we ask students to pre-test. It's not a good idea. The respondents for pre-testing must be from your actual respondents. If you are your study on this, students, then students should be your respondents. If you're study on employees, then the employees should be your respondents from that particular sector or industry. Yeah? Ask them to fill your questionnaire and discuss with you if they find any issue. And sometimes you observe them because you are in direct contact when they are completing the questionnaire. Don't send by using an online means. If you use online, then ask them to write down all the issues which they found during completing the questionnaire. So if they highlight anything, for example, sometimes when we observe, you find that you have 10 questions, for example, in a questionnaire. Question 1, they completed in 1 second. Question 2, they completed in 1 second. But question 3, they start thinking. They take out their mobile and then finding the meaning of one term or one word, and they cannot understand actually. So you realize that there is an issue in question number 3. And then this is the indication that you have to look back and rephrase, and maybe you go back and check whether how you can refine so the question can be easily understood by your respondents. So until when we continue this process. You first attempt, you got the response, go back, refine, come back and do again go back, refine, and come back again. The process will go on until it is satisfied and you will find 100% that everybody is understanding now, then you can proceed. The important thing is the pre-testing does not need any statistical analysis. Unlike a pilot study, we go with the Cronberg alpha, we go with composite reliability, and some people, if they have a good sample size during pilot study, they go for EFA as well. But for pre-testing, you don't need to do any statistical analysis. Remember, if you are doing pilot study, do not use the sample you collected for pilot study for your main data analysis. Separate it. There are several examiners. They will ask you, and if you mention that the data is incorporated, integrated, pilot and main data, then it's going to be a big issue, and they will ask you to go back and reanalyze only the data collected after your pilot study. So be careful. So what I conclude this point is, if you do pre-testing properly, you refine your instrument, I guarantee you that your data will be a quality data. And you don't need pilot study, because pilot study, the original object is same. You want to validate your questionnaire, you want to do the prototype. So if you do pre-testing very well, I'm very sure that everything will work very well. But I'm not stopping you to do pilot study, because some of the examiners also want you to do the pilot study. So for the sake of completing that requirement, do pilot study as well. So at least at the end of your thesis during Viva, you play safe and you mention that I did pre-testing and I also did pilot study. So play safe, please. This is another important issue: exploratory and confirmatory factor analysis. Being a managing editor of Journal of Applied Structural Equation Modeling, reviewer of so many journals, and plus guest editor of many journals, we review every day. And we found that the researchers are using both simultaneously in one paper, especially in thesis also. This is a kind of misconception. The long ago means people are already talking about that this is not a true way. You use EFA in certain conditions when a structure is not well established. For example, if you are developing a new scale, it's good to go for the EFA. But if it's already established, most of the quantitative research comes with established scales. You always mention that I adopted from blah blah, and these are 5 items, and then 5 items are measuring, for example, the employee engagement construct. You already know the structure, so you no need to mention, you no need to run the EFA beside CFA. So it's CFA is only needed. So who is saying? Actually, there are so many authors we have mentioned in our editorials, but specifically I would suggest you, I would recommend you to read the Green et al. 2016, and this is what mentioned on page 18. Similar discussion comes from Hullena in 2017 in his paper, that if you are not focusing on skill development, using EFA and CFA is unnecessary. In general, in established skills, we only use confirmatory factor analysis, not EFA. Okay, so this is you have a strong support, and Hullen, it's not something local. It's Hullen is a big name, and Green et al. The paper is published in Organizational Research Method. This Hullen's paper is published in Academy of Marketing Journal. So it's a top journal, A-star journals. Nobody can deny. So you are safe. But again, another suggestion. Beside this, this is a diplomatic, political suggestion. If your examiner is asking you to do, you have to do it. If your supervisor is asking you to do EFA, go for it, because you have to finish your thesis. If you want to finish your thesis, then you don't have any choice. And sometimes we also do. If reviewer asking us to do, and we want to publish, and we need this publication in that particular journal, and reviewer is a traditional mindset, we have no option, and we usually follow. So my suggestion is, preach, try to convince your supervisor, your reviewer, your examiner, but if you find that it's quite difficult, then I will definitely ask you, be diplomatic, be political. Even you don't believe, but still you do what they want. Last but not the least is the mediation analysis, the topic which is close to my heart, because we found the majority of the queries comes on my same Facebook page directly by emails, and in our workshops, it's about mediation analysis. Majority, still I believe that they believe in Barron and Kenny approach, although it's a long time, then people started asking that the Barron and Kenny approach, the causal steps, 4 steps are basically should not be used. And it has several limitations, shortcomings. So I would recommend you to read one of the paper on mediation analysis published in Journal of Operation Management, and then this editorial is published in Leadership Quarterly. They are clearly saying, if you are in 1980s, it was good to use Barron and Kenny approach, but you are already in 2015 and onwards, you actually don't need, because of this limitation. And then why they are saying, actually, what is the key limitation of that? Actually, they are saying that if one step is insignificant, based on Barron-Kenny approach, you cannot proceed. For example, the first stage is independent to dependent variable. It must be established and must be significant. So if you find that it's insignificant, means you have to stop there. Even because of this issue, that the several researchers are saying it's a hindrance in advancing the theory. Maybe there is a mediation, but because you couldn't find one relationship, and then you stop using mediation and you believe that there's no mediation, this is not a true concept of mediation. Later, as a preacher, they said that you no need to worry about these kind of things. If there's an indirect effect and you find it significant, there's a mediation. You claim that there is a mediation. So another question about mediation analysis, which we usually interact with researchers, Doctor, how many hypotheses should be for a mediation analysis? This is a very common question. So there are 2 approaches we usually recommend, and this is what we recommend in our PLS book. And then we recommend it in our mediation analysis editorial. And this actually comes from this paper, which is published in Journal of Operation Management. There are 2 approaches. One is segmentation approach and other is transmittal approach. You can go with one hypothesis only if you are using transmittal approach. Just indirect effect. Just indirect effect, hypothesize, test. If there is indirect effect, mediation already done. You no need to go with X with M, M with Y, and then mediation, no need several hypotheses. And in that paper, we have mentioned the several papers who have used this approach. Another approach, which we believe that it's a safer approach, considering our context, our examiners and then circumstances in our universities, I would suggest you go with the segmentation approach. Then you need at least 3 hypotheses. One from independent variable to mediator, and second one from mediator to dependent variable. And the third one is the indirect effect, which leads from independent to dependent variable, considering M as a mediator. So 3 hypotheses, it's enough. But by no means I'm saying that you cannot use Baron and Kenny approach. You use if you believe you have to for any reason, but you must know the shortcomings. You must make an informed decision. For example, if you know that the car is not working well and this car shouldn't be bought by me, I should not purchase this car. Why I should buy? But if you still want to buy, that's your own decision, and then you have to justify. So same goes here when we know that the Baron-Kenny approach has several limitations. Then if you still want to use, then it's your choice. And at the end, you have to justify to your examiners, your editors, and your reviewers. Another issue is about complete and partial mediation. Again, this is a discussion about the Baron and Kenny approach. If you are still using complete and partial mediation, you are still following Baron and Kenny approach. Has in Redwood's paper and so many other papers, Zhao and so many other papers, they are also preaching the same, that be careful when you are saying the complete and partial mediation, because when you say complete mediation, it means you are saying that this is the only mediator which you have considered in your study, and in the world there is no other mediator for this model, which is not true actually. And then when you say the partial mediation, it means you are claiming that there are so many other mediators left. Then my question is why you didn't consider them? So why not we should focus only indirect effect? Why we go for the game of complete and partial? But if you still believe that it is has the value to consider it as a complete and partial mediation, is still following Baron and Kenny approach, I won't stop you. I'm saying just you make an informed decision, and it should be based on literature, and it should have the logical justification why you are using complete and partial mediation, and it must be discussed explicitly when you are discussing your findings. These are the 2 papers which are close to my heart, and I always recommend, and that please go through. Transparency, one is talking about the transparency, and other is methodological issues, that why several papers rejected in the top journals. They reviewed so many papers and reviewers comment, and based on that, Green and colleagues, they highlighted that these are the shortcomings of the papers that should not be considered when you are writing papers. And this Harman Agni, one of the top scholars from Academy of Management, he's, I guess if I'm not mistaken, he's the president of Academy of Management. He's talking about the transparency, starting from your instrument designing, starting from theorizing, then data collection, how to transparent. And when you are transparent, nobody can stop you. Transparency is must in our survey research. So if you want to read more, you need so many references to support your arguments. These are the 3 editorials I would strongly recommend you to read, not for the sake of that it's written by Mumtaz or Haram or Rumaya, but to find the good references. If you just read, this not comes from us. We discuss these issues based on the literature. So you'll find these strong references from these articles, and then you read those articles and understand, and I'm sure that it can be a good start. This is the conclusion of this discussion. Sometimes we don't like what we get actually, because we are expecting something different, especially when we have the hypothesis, and when we run hypothesis, we find that several hypotheses are rejected. But this is the essence of the research. Research must be done, reported in very responsible way, honest way. You don't believe that only if the hypotheses are accepted, then only I can get published, or examiner will accept. It's not true. you should be honest in any way. When you are honest, one of my paper, it's published in Journal of Organization Effectiveness. It has rejected hypothesis. What I proposed, it was rejected badly. But when we published, it was published because of those results, because we couldn't find its true significance. And the editor said the paper have the significance. This is the significance of paper, that the hypotheses are rejected. So sometimes your publications are basically, if you come up with something, everybody is saying that hypotheses are supported. But if you have the something different, which is unusual, then it's very easy for you to publish. Again, we have a YouTube channel. I would recommend you to join. We have several videos there which are discussing topics on smart PLS, some advanced discussion on methodological issues. So if you join, you will find several valuable videos over there. This is my context. I'm available on Facebook. I'm available on Gmail. And then I'm ResearchGate. If you want to download any of my paper, any collaboration, you are most welcome. This is all about me. And once again, I'm grateful of Research Synergy Foundation for a wonderful event, for wonderful participants. Thank you so much. And open to Q&A session, please.
I think the time is already 10:15, so really sharp. And then so once again, thank you so much, Prof. Is there any final conclusion statement from your side?
Okay, and definitely. These are all the suggestions, all the recommendations. You every day listen so many scholars. There are so many webinars. There are so many online workshops. What I recommend everybody to please make an informed decision based on your own learning, own reading. If you don't read, if you just listen Mumtaz, if you just listen Santi, if you just listen Ani, it is not enough to make a correct decision or informed decision. Please read. For the reading, once you read, nobody can stop you from passing your vivas, publishing your papers, because you know, you are well informed. But if you just depend what other people said without a concrete reading and suggestions from the literature, without citing people, because you cannot cite my discussion now. But if you read, you don't need Mumtaz. You directly cite Hullen, you directly cite Green et al., you directly cite Hazen Preacher, you directly cite Barron and Kenny. So make a best friend, and that best friend should be your literature review, your reading, and then I wish you the success. Okay. All the best.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Mumtaz. Was very inspiring and insightful keynote speech of today's conferences. And we are really grateful to have you being with us today. So once again, thank you so much, Prof. Okay.